Okay, so this is a video game review for Test Drive 6 for the PC. This game was released around 1999 by Cryo. Yeah, you remember that lot that brought us the wonderful Frank Herbert's Dune? Well, you'll be, you might not be pleased, but I am, to hear that it wasn't this game wasn't developed by Cryo, and therefore isn't the turd of a game that Frank Herbert's Dune was. They were simply the publishers in this particular case. And now, coming from someone who doesn't really play purely racing games, perhaps with the exception of the Mario Kart franchise, this is the only other pure racing game that I've really gotten into. It's no masterpiece, but it's a fairly enjoyable game. I mean, I personally think that racing games can be rather dull, especially if you're talking about like Formula 1 games where you've got to complete like 50 billion laps or something like that, and you know, they're way too sort of sensitive to the slightest touch. This is kind of like that old school kind of game whereby there's actually quite a few licensed cars. There's about 41 in all, I think, and you can customize them to a nice extent, but it's basically just up, down, left and right, and space as you brake. It's fairly simple, and you don't really need to be one of these people who plays them religiously to really be able to get into this game. Now, I'm going to assume that you know the point of racing games, but it won't hurt to go over the purpose and the object again, or briefly at least. Firstly, you choose a car, like I've done with my bright lime green Lotus. You bet money on races, then assuming that you win those races, and for me, coming back to it, I was really rusty, as you can see here. Assuming that you win those races, you can accumulate money, you can buy a new car, and then you can enter higher races, because there's all these different classes and things. And eventually you should be able to complete all the cups. And in so doing, you'll be repeating many of the tracks in their various forms again. Now, some tracks are lapped, and others are a long journey race like this London one. So you basically drive from the start to the finish. And so the tracks are alright, but I still think they're fairly few in number, and because you'll be playing them over and over again, they can get quite repetitive, even with some kind of mirror modes and stuff. Now, some locations you'll get to drive in include Rome, London, Egypt, Ireland, New York and Paris. Some, like London and Egypt, as you've just seen, are always fun. I personally love the London one with all the main attractions, as cobbled together as they are, but other ones are quite bland, like Hong Kong and New York, as you'll see, are just really kind of grey and dull and just fairly lifeless, I think. Now, the graphics, I think, actually work pretty well, in my opinion. Don't expect Gran Turismo 4 style graphics or reflections and things, but you know, as boxy as some of these graphics are, they're nice and colourful. It's what you want from a game. You don't want something that's too dull and dreary. And actually, you know what? It's more the fact that the cars look alright and the game controls well, which is more important. Ultimately, it's gameplay that matters. Talking about the music, this game is a bit of a mixed bag, much like the courses and the tracks. You have the likes of Fear Factory's rendition of Gary Newman's Cars, which starts the game off on a proper footing, and there are other nice tracks to listen to, which really get the adrenaline pumping, and other ones that really don't, and you'll kind of have to listen to those a few times, even though you wouldn't really stick it on repeat if you had the choice. So that's a bit of a mixed bag. The interface is all very, very nice, all very clear. The traffic and police can sometimes get in your way, but then again that can sometimes turn in your favour, so that's nothing to really bring the game down. The controls are easy enough to pick up, but take a bit of time to master, and I remember losing many hours to this game. That said, the tracks aren't great as a whole, and this game lacks a certain je ne sais quoi. Test Drive 6 is quite enjoyable and still playable as ever. I mean, racing games really don't age that much, except maybe in the graphics department, but it probably won't end up on your favourites list, and as I hunt down the crazy drivers of Paris, I give this game a 6 out of 10. And that's me.